Tonight, it has that new car smell and, thanks to taxpayers, a new lease on life. The new General Motors.
If we don't get this right, nothing else is going to work.
I'm Katie Couric. Also tonight, Al-Qaeda's leadership in Pakistan running for their lives. The terror group admits U.S. Predator drones have caused alarming damage. It seems to work for them. Could eating fewer calories add more years to your life?
This is the CBS Evening News with Katie Couric.
And good evening, everyone. Well, they started the engine today on the brand new 2009 model General Motors, but it took a pair of jumper cables attached to the United States Treasury. The company officially emerged today from what turned out to be a quick spin through bankruptcy. Reorganizing took just 40 days, and GM got another infusion of taxpayer money this week, about $20 billion. That brings the total bailout to $50 billion. CEO Fritz Henderson said he intends to pay it all back before the 2015 deadline. And to do it, he's betting on a new business model and an old car model, an updated version of a classic Chevrolet muscle car. From Detroit tonight, here's Dean Reynolds.
The leaders of a reborn General Motors drove off in what they insist is a new direction today.
Today marks the beginning of a new company.
The bankruptcy cut its debt from $180 billion to about $50 billion, largely at the expense of bondholders. And it cut hourly labor costs from $70 to $45. But it damaged GM's reputation and put 60% of the automaker in the hands of a potentially meddlesome federal government. Its new government-imposed boss, former AT&T chairman Edward Whittaker, admits he's never been a car guy, but he sees the ingredients for success nonetheless.
But all the raw materials are here for this to be not only an American success, but a worldwide success.
Indeed, in the midst of the company's catastrophic decline comes a glimmer of hope in the shape of the new 2010 Camaro. GM is selling more of these Camaros than they can make. They're working overtime to produce them, and you still have a 6-week wait to get one. But the new GM will not include Pontiac, Hummer, Saturn, and Saab. Only Buick, Chevy, Cadillac, and GMC made the cut. And that means 14,000 hourly workers will no longer be needed, nor about 4,000 white-collar employees. GM's dealerships, nearly 6,000 strong, were relics of past success and will be trimmed by 2,300, unless Congress gets in the way, that is. Legislation already pending would keep some of the doomed franchises alive. But the surviving dealers are optimistic.
I'm hoping this is the turning point. I hope we can now all move forward and get back to what we do.
GM CEO Fritz Henderson seconded that motion.
We want people to give us a second look, for sure, but we want them to do it because we think our products merit that.
Industry analysts remain to be convinced.
The game is GM's to lose right now. A little bit of the old way starts creeping in, then they basically, all bets are off.
Company officials see this as a precious opportunity. CEO Fritz Henderson said it was like having a second chance in life, but he quickly added there will be no third chance. Katie?
And Dean, we keep hearing about the new and improved GM, but is there any real evidence it's changing the way it does business?
Well, basically, they say they're going to bring out cars that people want and bring them out a lot faster, including green cars. But at the same time, they've elevated an executive named Bob Lutz, who is famous for his designs, but infamous for his questioning of global warming and the need for hybrid cars. So we'll see. Katie?
All right, Dean Reynolds in Detroit tonight. Thank you. Now, that horror story we told you about yesterday, workers at an historic black cemetery near Chicago allegedly digging up bodies and then reselling the plots. Relatives of people buried at that cemetery went there today to see if their graves had been desecrated. Cynthia Bowers has more.
In a dreary downfall, hundreds of grief-stricken families poured into Burr Oak Cemetery for directions.
We're going to go this way.
Yeah.
A bit of reassurance,
We'll get you on the next shuttle bus.
and bus rides to look for graves they hope are still there.
I want to know what my family is. They souls is not resting in peace.
4 cemetery workers here face up to 30 years behind bars for their alleged roles in digging up bodies and reselling plots. Diane Dubray came in from Las Vegas yesterday to bury her aunt, only to find the plot already occupied.
They're telling me there's no space there because there's another casket in there.
Vanessa Russ says last year she noticed her mom's headstone was in the wrong place.
The headstone was maybe about a half a block away.
Burr Oak is the final resting place of many famous African Americans, including lynching victim Emmett Till. His remains were exhumed, then reburied 4 years ago. News today, his old glass-top casket was found rusting in this shed home to possums and rats. The money donated to build a mausoleum in his honor is missing.
How could anybody allow this to happen to something that's so pertinent to history?
Nobody can say for sure exactly how many thousands of people are buried in this 150-acre cemetery, leading the sheriff to suggest, short of digging up every grave and doing DNA testing, every family may never have complete resolution.
The question has been asked, ultimately, are you going to bring complete clarity to everybody? I can't make that assurance at all.
Which means many families have lost their loved ones all over again. Cynthia Bowers, CBS News, Alsip, Illinois.
Overseas tonight, President Obama got a warm welcome in the African nation of Ghana. He flew there from Italy after wrapping up the G8 summit. The president was mobbed by dancing crowds at the airport. Tomorrow, he'll address Ghana's parliament. More than 1 million people are expected to line the streets, hoping to get a glimpse of the first African-American president. Meanwhile, Mr. Obama had a busy day today, including a very serious discussion at the Vatican. Our chief White House correspondent, Chip Reed, is traveling with the president.
At the Vatican today, a warm greeting for President Obama from Pope Benedict XVI.
It's a great honor for me. Thank you so much.
It's a tradition followed by every American president since Eisenhower. The Pope is known for his eagerness to listen, but he stated in clear terms the Church's opposition to abortion. The Vatican says President Obama, an abortion rights supporter, then made a commitment to the Pope to try to reduce the number of abortions in the United States, reaffirming a pledge he made in a speech at Notre Dame University in May.
Let us work together to reduce the number of women seeking abortions.
The Pope also gave Mr. Obama a church document condemning research using embryonic stem cells, research the president supports. White House officials say the president asked the Pope to pray for his family, who made the trip to the Vatican with him. He also gave the Pope a letter from Senator Ted Kennedy and asked the Pope to pray for him as he struggles with brain cancer. Pope Benedict and the president also talked about issues on which they largely agree, including Middle East peace and aid to Africa, which was on the agenda earlier in the day at the final session of the Global Economic Summit. The leaders agreed to a $20 billion program to help Africa grow more of its own food. Mr. Obama said he has high hopes for Africa's economy, but conceded there's still a very long way to go.
In many African countries, if you want to start a business or get a job, you still have to pay a bribe.
On a later note, after meeting with the president of South Africa, President Obama was asked if he plans to go to soccer's World Cup in that country next year. He responded with an attempt at humor.
That's my goal. Did you get that?
From Italy, the president heads for Africa to the nation of Ghana, where he will praise that nation's commitment to democratic ideals and urge other African nations to follow Ghana's path. Chip Reed, CBS News, L'Aquila, Italy.
Now to the war in Afghanistan. The new U.S. commander there believes that to win, he'll need a bigger Afghan army and billions in additional funding. An American buildup is already underway with 17,000 new troops heading there. By year's end, U.S. forces will total 68,000. But our David Martin has learned that General Stanley McChrystal's plans could require even more Americans, perhaps thousands, to train new Afghan recruits. Of course, much of the war against the Taliban and al-Qaeda is being fought across the border in Pakistan. And the most valuable weapons there are American drones. Today, the U.S. reportedly used them to attack a Taliban communications center, killing at least 3 people. And as David Martin now tells us, they've got al-Qaeda on the run.
It's not often the enemy tells you something you're doing, in this case strikes by CIA drones against al-Qaeda sanctuaries in Pakistan, is working. But in this document posted on the web, a top al-Qaeda commander writes, "The harm is alarming, the matter is very grave." Both senior government officials and outside experts say it is an extraordinary confession.
It exposes for the first time a level of paranoia and a level of self-consciousness and a lack of confidence in al-Qaeda's leadership and their propaganda that we just haven't seen up until now.
In the past year, the CIA has flown more than 50 drone strikes in Pakistan, killing half of al-Qaeda's top leaders and hundreds of its fighters. One senior official said the central leadership of al-Qaeda is under more pressure now than at any time since the bombing of Tora Bora in 2001. The document blames the accuracy of the strikes on spies who have spread throughout the land like locusts. So many brave commanders have been snatched away, it says. So many hidden homes have been leveled.
The accuracy of these drone strikes has been so remarkable. There's not even been an attempt by al-Qaeda or the Taliban to offer a counter-narrative to say that, no, there were actually women and children that were killed. There's been nothing but silence.
The strikes do cause civilian casualties, but one senior official claims more innocent people have been executed by al-Qaeda as suspected spies than killed by CIA drones. David Martin, CBS News, the Pentagon.
From Iran, new video of the latest protests in the capital. Thousands took to the streets yesterday demanding a new presidential election. Security officers used clubs and tear gas to break up the rallies. More than 2,500 protesters have reportedly been arrested since last month's disputed election. Most are still being held. And coming up next on the CBS Evening News, monkey see, monkey do. Will a diet for primates become the prime example of healthy living for humans? We all know skipping dessert is a simple way to lose a little weight, but could it also help you gain years? A groundbreaking new study suggests cutting calories may be the key to a longer life with less disease. Sandra Hughes shows us the research of restraint.
These monkeys have been dieting for more than 15 years, and researchers say because of a low-calorie diet, they've lived a longer and healthier life than their fatter companions.
We saw that the diseases of aging, such as cancers, diabetes, and heart problems, the monkeys on caloric restriction were 3 times less prone to develop such diseases.
In the study, half the monkeys ate a normal diet, the others 1/3 less. Of those who ate the normal diet, 50% have died. Of the dieting monkeys, only 20% have died. Scientists say less food, longer life. All this is a vindication for very extreme dieters like Lisa Wolford. She belongs to the Calorie Restriction Society and eats about 1,500 calories a day of mostly fresh vegetables and fruits.
I don't seem to get sick, so it's a way to maintain health and energy and just, feel fulfilled with my life.
Nutritionists say you don't have to go to extremes to achieve some of these life-extending benefits. Just cut 10 to 30% of your caloric intake daily to change your metabolism.
A diet like this: cereal with fresh fruit for breakfast, salad for lunch, and lean meat and veggies for dinner.
But in a country where 2/3 of us, that's about 200 million people, are overweight, even that sounds Spartan.
I would be miserable. I was spending my life counting calories.
The monkeys may be living longer, but researchers say they don't know if they were happy about it. Sandra Hughes, CBS News, Los Angeles.
And for tips on losing weight, you can go to our partner in health coverage, WebMD.com, and search calories. Meanwhile, hundreds of people risk shortening their lives every year in the running of the bulls in Pamplona, Spain. And that flirtation with danger turned deadly today when a bull got separated from the pack. It gored a 27-year-old Spaniard, and he later died. A 61-year-old American and 2 others were also gored, and another man was tossed by the bull's horns but wasn't seriously hurt. The death today was the first in 15 years and the 15th since they started keeping records back in 1924. The Senate Judiciary Committee opens confirmation hearings Monday for Sonia Sotomayor, the first Hispanic nominated to the Supreme Court and only the 4th woman. Hearings for some past nominees have produced fireworks, but it should be smooth sailing for Sotomayor, though she's sure to be questioned about one controversial remark. Wyatt Andrews has a preview.
Just to make it look official. She met with 89 senators, faced 6 weeks of scrutiny, but on Monday a virtual script will unfold for the confirmation of Sonia Sotomayor.
I'm enthusiastic about it.
Democrats like Patrick Leahy will push the personal story of the girl from the projects, the Yale grad who could have made millions but who started her career as a prosecutor and who is now the first Hispanic nominee to the Supreme Court.
This judge is an example of what we tell our children they can grow up to be.
The Republican script calls for tough but respectful questioning. What about her comments that a wise Latina woman would reach a better conclusion than a white male who hasn't lived that life? And speaking of white males, why did she not find that the white New Haven firefighters had a case of reverse discrimination?
Even though it raised fundamental, important constitutional questions, really important questions.
On the witness list, Republicans will call Frank Ricci, one of the white firefighters who lost in front of Sotomayor but won the case at the Supreme Court. Democrats will call former pitcher David Cone to thank the judge for ending the baseball strike in 1995 with a decision she reached in 15 minutes. Absent any bombshell revelations, then, Sotomayor is on a glide path for confirmation, so much so that at least 10 Republicans could support her as well. Wyatt Andrews, CBS News at the Supreme Court.
Also in Washington, former Senator and presidential candidate Bob Dole is in the hospital. In fact, he's been at Walter Reed since last week. Dole, seen here on the D-Day anniversary last month, had some open sores on his left leg that required surgery. A skin graft is planned for Monday. And that's the CBS Evening News. I'm Katie Couric in New York. Jeff Glor will be here tomorrow. Meanwhile, thanks for watching this week. I'll see you Monday. Until then, have a great weekend. Good night.